it's Jeff Chalmers here from discoverdoublebass.com. I've got another video lesson and this one's a bit different. There's no bass and I'm only going to be talking. The reason is because I received a fantastic email entitled Not So Technical Questions. And it was a bunch of questions from a viewer, Toby, who lives in Canada, and he was asking me about my approach to practicing, more general questions about bass playing. And they were really good questions and I thought they'd make a great lesson. So let's find out if they do. I'm going to read these questions out and answer them for you right now. Well, the first in this list of questions is, what advice would you give to someone starting out? Now, this is really quite a big question here, and frankly, I've created an entire website around this question already, but I'll do my best. Questions like this, I could answer differently depending on what day of the week it is, because there are so many things really. But here's some of the things that I think that you should be bearing in mind when you're starting out. The main thing is that it's really hard to get past the technical aspects of double bass where you need to play in tune. And I think playing the instrument, because of that, it really holds you back in the way that you don't have playing a guitar or a bass guitar. So you do have to put in, a considerable amount of work into the basic techniques, and I'd say more so than almost any other instrument. So it does take a lot of discipline. But I think what can happen to some players is they can go away and they can just keep hammering these scales and arpeggios and they never really get anything back from it. What I would suggest that you do is think about a triangle, okay? And in each corner of the triangle is an essential part that keeps the whole process moving. So in one corner of the triangle, you have your lesson. Now I would suggest that in addition to the lessons that you're having here on Discover Double Bass, that you have at least a few private lessons with somebody in person. The double bass really needs some care when playing, and I think that you would benefit from the feedback. Even if it's only a few lessons, it's really beneficial. So you need the input of the lesson, okay? Then the next corner is the practice session. Now, your practice session needs to be very well structured. And this is something that we're going to talk about a little bit later in this video as well. Practicing is absolutely key. You know that the only thing stopping you from being the bass player that you want to be is the number of hours that you spend in the practice room and how good the material that you're practicing is, how relevant to you, how focused, how much direction it has. Now imagine if you have a fantastic practice routine worked out, so every hour really matters, then it's only a case of putting those hours in. But if you just spend all your time in the practice room without the feedback from the teacher, then you'll never really get anything back from it. And this is the third point of the triangle, which is the performance. Straight away, get out there and get playing. It doesn't matter how good, how bad you are, just start. When I started playing gigs, I'd had the bass for about 10 minutes and I sounded terrible. But frankly, you need to get past that. Just get out there and do it. Join an amateur orchestra and just start playing. Get onto the local jam session. Get a friend and practice. Just spend hours playing the blues in all 12 keys or something. And then you'll feel energized and excited and you'll have something to go back to the teacher with, and you'll be able to go back to Discover Double Bass and look at more lessons for more input, which you then go and practice, which you get excited about, and then the whole thing starts going round. So if you don't have that set up, then it'll really hold you back, and that's possibly the best advice that I could give somebody starting out. Toby's second question is, what is the best piece of advice that I've received? And this is a really hard one, and one that I could absolutely, as I say, answer differently on a different day of the week. It really is. There's so much. I've had so many fantastic teachers and students and other bass players that have helped me. I would say that the main bit of advice that I've been given that would really help you would be not to look at other bass players as competition. Don't think about yourself as in this big race to get where you want to. You're only in a race with yourself. It's only about discipline and how much practice and how good you can be, not how good you can be compared to Christian McBride or, the guy in the local band near you. It's all about the relationship that you have with practice and how effective you are. But the other bass players are around you are absolutely key to your development. I have learned so much just from speaking to other bass players, from practicing with them, from taking lessons with other bass players, just hanging out and jamming with people. And also, when it comes to work, you will get work from other bass players. You tend to get DEP gigs, we call them in the UK, or sub gigs in the US, where you'll get the work in from other bass players looking for somebody. So try not to be too insular with your practice, share as much as you can, get out there and meet other bass players. And I was given that advice by one of my teachers and it served me really well. The next question is, what is the single practice that you believe has contributed to your playing? And I think I'm going to take this one way, Toby. I think I could answer this a few different ways, and I'm going to answer and tell you about the most beneficial lesson and thing to practice that I've been given. I think the most beneficial practice might be the power of habit and getting into the practice room. But if I get really specific with you about what I've practiced that has transformed my playing and made the biggest difference, it's really easy. There's one thing, and that's the cycle of fifths using arpeggios. That exercise is absolutely amazing. And I can remember the teacher that I had at the time talking me through it, and I was thinking, okay, this is okay. And then I went a bit further with it, and all of a sudden I could understand harmony. And the more that I practiced it, the more that I elaborated it, and the more that I changed and developed it into the practice routine that I have now, the more it's helped me. Now, I don't think it's for everybody, because I have spoken to other bass players who don't really use the cycle of fifths, don't really think it's very useful. But for me, it basically led to a really strong understanding of harmony. So I feel that I've got some loads of options under my fingers at any one point. So I'd say that the biggest contributing sort of factor is the power of habit, and the biggest specific lesson, or the most beneficial lesson, would be using the arpeggios through the cycle of fifths to get them through all 12 keys. Toby's fourth question is, what motivates you on days that you're not feeling it? Well, this is a really hard one, and I'm sure all of us have experienced those days where you sit down in the practice room and you really struggle. There's a couple of things that keep me going and try and keep my mind active, and the best way to summarise it would be variety. So if I'm playing sat down, often I get a bit kind of, lethargic and what have you. So I'll just stand up and move around. Pretty much every practice session I stand and sit, and I find that it just helps me. I get a bit feel a bit uncomfortable after sitting for a while, so I like to stand and move about. The other thing that really helps me is to mix up whatever I'm doing. So there's no point, if you're learning this sonata and it's going nowhere, put the sonata down and move on to something else. Try maybe just experimenting with the bass, because I think when I'm practicing, I like to be practicing something very specific. However, there's a real benefit of just exploring the instrument and just playing, not thinking, just playing the notes, seeing what comes out. And I find that often I come up with some good compositions and bass lines and ideas and, that kind of thing I find really engaging. So I just pick a scale and I just play it up and down, and then I develop the scale. And I try to improvise, and then I usually find that after doing that for a while, my mind is clear and I can go back to the objective for the lesson. However, on those days where I'm still sat there thinking about, what am I going to do tonight, what have I got for tea, that kind of thing, then just stop, because I think the best thing that you can do is have a really clear divide line between working and time off. So if you're really struggling, don't just sit there and feel rubbish for your practice time. Say, okay, it happens every now and again. You're going to have to take this afternoon off, put the bass away, come back to it the next day. And you'd be much better off doing that than you would do sat there kind of hitting your head against a brick wall. And this is advice that I struggle to follow. I really need to do more of this myself. I really, should have clearer boundaries about practice and not practice and what have you. And I'd recommend that you try that, because I think it would really benefit you. Ultimately there is more to life than bass, although I find it hard to believe. So, take some time out and go and do something different. And when you come back, you'll have a fresher perspective. I also find this when I'm going on holiday, I always worry if I've been away for a couple of weeks and, you know, my calluses have gone and what have you. And I always, without exception, find that I'm actually better than before I left, because I've got fresher ideas, I'm more energized. So enjoy your time off, enjoy your practice time, and try and be very clear about when you're doing one or the other. Don't sit there and beat yourself up just because you're not able to make it all over, you know, through your exercise or what have you. Well, I hope you found that useful. Thank you very much, Toby, for your fantastic questions. I thought they were really interesting, and hopefully other people have been interested in them as well. I'd just like to thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time in the next video lesson at discoverdoublebase.com.